This is a talk about gender preferences in therapy based around the survey that we've recently done. Louise, who's the principal author, couldn't be with us, but John and I are here to try and talk through the results of it and also the issues that lead into doing research and what the implications of it are. This is just a picture of our male psychology network. Do you want to say something about that, John?
Okay, this is a picture from the conference that we had last year, as you'll see, at UCL, which was a lot of fun. And if anybody wants to come to the conference this year, it's the 23rd and 24th of June. It promises to be really interesting. We're going to have people like Rory O'Connor talking about suicide and how to prevent it. We're going to have Marv Westwood from Canada, who's an expert in treating PTSD. We're going to have some really incredible stuff. Norman Lamb, okay, he's incredible too.
He's a politician, but...
An incredible politician, yeah. And we're going to have also some really interesting stuff looking at therapy with prisoners, which actually I think almost should be the headline stuff, but it came in a bit late. But we tend to write off psychopathic sex offenders for some reason, but apparently that we shouldn't be so quick to do so, and it's very enlightening in terms of the way that we think of prison populations, which are largely male. So, you know, and any of this stuff that we're doing, any of this what we're calling male psychology stuff, we're doing because there are issues that are kind of affect more men than women. And often they're also understudied, but in some cases they're understudied, but they affect men maybe as much as women, but we still don't take so much notice of them. But there's lots of these sorts of issues, and in a way psychologists should be really excited about kind of exploring this, because in many ways it's kind of new territory for us. I mean, if you are an ambitious psychologist, this should be the field that you're interested in.
Yeah, quite clearly, if we're interested in helping people, you know, gender's a huge factor in everything in life, and I think psychologists have been a little slow to start studying the full spectrum of gender effects, and you know, and yet the evidence is there, particularly suicide, things like that. There's massive gender differences. So obviously therapy, we'll come on to this, but men are much less likely to seek help, much more likely to take risks. So why are we not taking account of that in the way we think about therapy? Hence the need to try and do research. Because even in suicide, there's very little research on gender, which is incredible, isn't it? So we're part of the network trying to take a lead on this within the British Psychological Society, and just more widely connecting with other people who are interested, men and women. Our network is men and women, really, isn't it? It's not about sort of men's issues, you know, exclusively, because obviously everything to do with men affects women and vice versa. So we share the world. So we need to get this right for all of us, for our children, everybody. So a key issue today is really gender as it relates to therapy. And yes, 3/4 at least of suicides are male, i.e. most societies. So clearly it's not even a cultural thing, is it? Across the whole globe, every culture, men are committing suicide at a much higher rate than women, and that's an important subject for science and humanity. If we're interested in all, you know, we need to understand that to help all of us. So it raises issues like why aren't, and yet despite those figures, or perhaps because of them, because if suicide rates are higher, in a way that sort of fits with men not seeking help. So, are men not seeking help because the types of therapy on offer aren't appealing to men? Is it something about the way we're presenting therapy and talking about it, the language that doesn't connect with men? And just when we do therapy and men do turn up, are they not really working as well for men because the style of therapy isn't really connecting with the male psyche? Is there such a thing as a male psyche, or is that a sexist thing, or is it science is about different? You know, we must explore human differences and diversity. obviously long-term benefits can be less for men. And you might want to say something about that study, John?
Well, Kevin Wright presented quite a large longitudinal study at the Male Psychology Conference last year, and what was impressive about it really was that it showed that men didn't have long-term benefits in the same way that women did after this therapy. And one of that might be, it was quite a big sample size, so it's possibly not a fluke result. But one of the issues is that we don't tend to look at gender when it comes to the outcome of therapies. So, for example, in IAPT, we don't tend to do that. Or I think that they might have started doing that recently. Myself and David Wilkins were trying to encourage IAPT to produce their results by gender. They might have started doing it. But by and large, you don't see therapy studies showing the outcome by gender. And this is, a social science type of thing. It's a strange sort of thing, and I think it's kind of like a culture of social science type of thing, because you don't see it in medicine, for example. Like, people aren't squeamish about looking at gender differences in medicine. Often they're very important. But this review by Parker et al. Was only able to find a handful of studies of the effect of therapy for depression, where they did look at the outcomes for men and women. And this is a problem really, because if there are differences, we need to know about them to make our therapies effective.
The point is our framework of science is actually not even asking the question, are there gender differences? So if you have a framework of science that doesn't include the possibility of gender difference in the data, we're only going to get data that collude with the idea that there aren't differences because we haven't been measuring them. So people like us in this room, you're here tonight, so that's great because you're interested in this subject. So people like us have to change that. Even if the findings are men and women completely the same when it comes to therapy, that's an assumption until we actually start asking the question. But the evidence, as we will show you, is that that's very much not the case. And of course, as things stand with trying to appeal to the male gender, hi there, come in if you're here for the gender preferences lecture.
Have I gender preferences?
Yeah.
Yes.
No, is this you're in the right place? There's another event going on. Anyway.
Leave him alone, Martin.
Okay, so the standard approach that we're getting in the charities, in the NHS, in public sector towards trying to reach out to men to get them to seek help is precisely that. We're trying to reach out to men and get them to seek help, to change. We're trying to change boys and men. So this is just an example of that approach. Boys, one thing is a fact. These are facts, not opinions. Boys are much less likely than girls to talk to childline counsellors, and we know that men are much less likely to talk to counsellors and therapists. So we know that these are facts. So the question is, are we going to be curious about understanding the reasons for those facts, or are we just going to assume boys aren't talking enough, let's get them talking? That's what's happening at the moment, isn't it, John? We've basically got, this is an example of that the NSPCC has got a Tough to Talk campaign. You see many charity campaigns run by various organisations. You may well be familiar with them or involved in them yourselves, and the basic idea is that we've got to get boys to open up, to speak out. This is our boys aren't speaking up, they're not opening up. So let's get them to do that. It's a pretty simplistic approach. And when you look at the childline counselling sessions, you can see there's many more for girls than boys. So there's an issue there. And no one's intentions are bad here. Everyone wants to kind of improve things. But it seems to us a little bit simplistic that one starts trying to reach men and boys without any research, or without, kind of looking at it. And this is just a promotional thing for that. And it's an example. You see many of the things. I've been working with some of the organisations like Time to Change and trying to influence them to make it a bit more male-friendly. And there's an attempt there, because the notion of tough to talk kind of is like saying to boys, if you talk, you are tough. It's strong to talk. And I think there's kind of an attempt to try and appeal to the male kind of way of thinking, rather than change. But in some ways it kind of could be doubly shaming. If you don't talk, you're not tough, and if you do talk, you're not tough, because there's pressure on guys not to admit that they have problems. So yeah, we're talking about motivation here. How do we reach men better? You can take horse to water, you can't make them drink. Do we just shout louder so if boys don't turn up and men don't turn up for service? We should just say, come on guys, because in a way you're ending up being critical. You're ending up being negative. You're saying, come on guys, you're macho, come on, it's the 21st century, open up, there's no need to sort of be so macho anymore. This is the modern world. And I think that's a very dangerous message, because in other aspects of life we are expecting men to be macho. I think almost 100% of the people who die at work are men. So we're still telling men, you've got to do the difficult, dangerous jobs. So we're giving double messages to men. Or do we, and of course the approach of our research is to say, well, why don't we just ask people what they want? Ask men and women, what are your preferences in therapy? Or what are your attitudes to it? We can maybe design approaches that are more suited. Client-centered approach. We're desperate to be client-centered, aren't we? I mean, all the humanistic approaches, counselling, most counselling approaches are based on this humanistic idea that you should be client-centered. Psychology, even though it sort of is rather contemptuous of humanistic theory, which it shouldn't be, British psychology is very CBT-oriented, has a bit of a snobbishness about counselling and humanism, but British psychology has accepted the idea that one must have these humanistic values behind your therapy technique, even if you've got some more scientific technique you think you're offering, which is a false bit of science. But anyway, if you believe that, then we should be client-centered. If you want to be client-centered with a man, what does that mean? If someone's a man, someone's a woman, being client-centered means noticing their different worlds they live in. If someone has a different ethnicity, we try to be client-centered about that. If someone has a different age, if someone's 85, we're not going to talk to them the same way as they're 5. We try to get into their world, connect with them. What the gender surely is a factor which you need to connect with. So, really, we're just trying to do what is obvious in all other areas of life, but for some reason gender is an area people get hung up on it. I think it's because of the equality thing. People think that if you're looking for differences, you're denying equality, which is not true. Old people and children are very different, but they're equal. You wouldn't value a child any more than an old person, well I suppose you might do, in terms of, funding. But at the end of the day, we value people equally, and differences don't make them less equal. But when it comes to gender, we get worried. We think, oh, if we're treating men and women differently, we're not treating them equally. In fact, to treat people equally, we do have to treat them differently. If someone's a different size, you don't give everyone the same size suit. If they go to a tailor's, they want an equally nice fitting suit. You have to give them a suit that fits them, not the same size for everybody. Same with therapy. Why should we do a one-size-fits-all therapy? That's the spirit behind our research here. And of course, a prelude to this particular study was another study where we looked at therapists' attitudes and experiences of gender differences. Maybe you want to say something about that?
Okay, so what we did was we decided we were going to ask therapists whether they thought that men and women benefited from different approaches in therapy. And we decided to start off asking life coaches because from our kind of pilot research or conversations with therapists, we thought that they might have the best chance of seeing lots of male clients for various reasons, including that life coaching is a fairly solution-focused approach. You're not required to do a lot of delving into emotions in general. So we did a series of 3 studies then asking different types of therapists to identify gender differences in the needs of their clients. So we talked to 20 life coaches, we interviewed them, and we analysed the interviews using the grounded theory method, which is quite a thorough method, and it allows supposedly at least the minimum of bringing the researchers' own preconceptions to the analysis. So you get as kind of rich a voice and clear voice from your from your interviewees as you possibly can. And what we found was that 90% of the life coaches said that they'd noticed sex differences of one kind or another. For example, a lot of the coaches said that men tended to come to them about work-related issues, whereas women would come to them about more personal or sometimes interpersonal relationship-type issues. And one of the interesting things, and this we weren't expecting this, and it's one of the beauties of brand theory analysis. One of the unexpected things we found was that people, these life coaches showed a lot of kind of unease or kind of reluctance to talk about gender differences. It was as if we triggered a certain amount of cognitive dissonance by asking them to identify differences in their male and female clients. So they would, and they demonstrated that in various ways. I don't know if we've got a slide on that later, but they would kind of they would talk a bit indirectly about gender differences. We also talked to some hypnotherapists. This was a brief study. We just had the research assistant for a short period of time, so we only spoke to 6 hypnotherapists. All of them reported sex differences in some aspect of their clients' needs or behaviour in therapy. And we also talked to recently 20 clinical psychologists, and there were also some counsellors and psychotherapists in that study. And we found pretty much a replication of our first study with the life coaches. We found that everybody reported sex differences of one kind and another, and even more of them than the life coaching sample showed this kind of unease about talking about sex differences. So, and we talk. Oops,
Sorry.
So we talked about this in terms of male gender blindness, which was the kind of thing where people are showing a kind of a lacking an ability really to see issues when they affect men, and this seemed to be part of the way that they describe their experiences of therapy. So they would say that I hate generalising, but men prefer this type of thing and women prefer another type of thing. So this whole thing of hating to generalise was demonstrating their reluctance to talk about this. But then they would go on to say that there were particular gender differences that they noticed. And I think where this probably comes from is we in academia we get what we call an education, and part of that education at the moment is to educate us out of noticing the differences between men and women. So we've had what's been called beta bias in research since around the 1980s, and this is the tendency to minimise or ignore differences between men and women. This came as a reaction against what was called alpha bias, which was identified as the tendency to overemphasise or be too keen to look for sex differences in whatever research, even if it didn't seem to be relevant or important. People were criticised for looking at sex differences. But we've ended up now in a situation that I think is typified by Janet Hyde's gender similarities hypothesis, where the idea is that there are more similarities than differences. You've probably heard that kind of phrase. I mean, what that's doing is saying, look, there might be some differences, but like there's more similarities, so just ignore the differences. Whereas people like myself and Martin are saying, well, hang on a second, if there are differences, for example, if men are killing themselves 3.5 times more than women are, or men are going in for substance abuse twice as often as men are, well, we probably don't want to just ignore those things. We probably want to explore the reasons for those things, and they might, there might be important aspects to those problems that can only be solved when you look at them as gender related issues. And
yeah, I'll just come in there. Basically, yeah, I mean, it's absolutely must be true that we have more that, and of course politically it's very important, socially, spiritually, the human condition. We all share the human condition, so that's great. I mean, it's important. But then within the human condition we have we have different groupings within that. So you wouldn't say that about any other group, you know. Old children and old people, for example, I keep coming back to that, but you know, they have more similarities, they're human, and they're just the same people who've got a bit older, but the differences in the aging, you know, if we were to ignore aging as something that impacts on how we should intervene to help people, that'd be crazy. And I think we've got hung up on the idea that somehow, because we have more in common, of course we do, we have the human species, you know, human condition, but human species is gendered. You know, and also the evolution, the biology of sex is a factor in all species, and therefore if we're saying that those biological differences aren't relevant psychologically, what we're basically saying is the mind and the body are split. Now, I don't know anyone in science who really is going to say that our minds and bodies should be split. I think science has hopefully evolved a lot further than to say that we're not embodied, you know, that the human condition, our psychological sense of ourselves could not be identified with our body, our identity, not just directly through being physically different, but actually psychologically seeing a different person in the mirror, having an image, having an identity, all the stuff we love as psychologists. This gender's a huge issue in identity, and you know, we should be really interested in it. But we're sort of closing down the debate because I think, again, just because you're anxious about saying that men and women aren't equal, of course they're equal. But they're different. You can be equal and different. I think that's the weird thing. In science, we're supposed to be sort of fairly clever people, but I think we just lose the plot because we're so anxious not to appear to be politically incorrect. I think that's what came out of the previous study, wasn't it? You've got all these massive gender differences from these therapists who interview them, but actually they don't want to admit that they are seeing them. So we got two big findings. One is that there are big gender differences. The second finding is no one wants to talk about it. And of course the fact that no one wants to talk about it explains why we haven't been researching this stuff and why we're having this talk tonight. You know, because even the suicide researchers aren't looking at gender. And when you've got nearly 80% of suicides by men, and the suicide researchers aren't looking at gender, that in itself is the finding, isn't it? That's evidence of a willful turning a blind eye to something, which is about our attitudes to gender rather than gender itself.
I would see it as a type of unconscious bias.
Yeah.
I think people tend to see unconscious bias as something where women are put at a disadvantage due to stereotyping. But I think also this male gender blindness is the unconscious bias that no one has seen yet because they're blind to it. You know, so it's
the science isn't even asking the question, are there gender differences? So it's closing down the question. So you're only seeing what you're looking for. And of course we know that in science generally, but when it comes to this, obviously even the scientists are caught up in it. So we've been talking about this in terms of gender blindness, or the gender empathy gap as well, which is, you know, and that is based on strong evolutionary theory, you know, that basically men are more disposable in terms of survival of the social group and all of these things, that, you know, in terms of fertility and maintaining populations, and in terms of, you know, men have sacrificed themselves for the protection of the group, and therefore we have evolved to sort of expect men to be protected, not to see them as vulnerable so much. And then there's a pressure on all of us to have these perceptions, and therefore it filters through in our research, in our attitudes to gender, which are largely unconscious. So when you tap into them, I think it does, when you tap into these things, you do get a lot of hostility and resistance, as well as just discomfort.
Just to illustrate the gender empathy gap, which you might not have heard about, this is where people tend to have less empathy or sympathy for men than they do for women, given the man and woman in a similar situation. And you may have seen the Mankind Project kind of social experiment, if you like it, not too grand a way of putting it, where they showed a man kind of pushing and being verbally abusive to a woman in public, and the people around him kind of immediately came over, and they were quite clear about needing this guy to stop, or they'd get the police, and there was no way he was going to get away with it. But then they showed, again, the same situation, but with the woman pushing and being verbally abusive to the man. And the people around them were just laughing at it and kind of laughing or ignoring. There was no problem with it whatsoever. And I think that was a really clear demonstration of what's called the gender empathy gap.
Yeah, there's been a number of studies in, you can even get them off YouTube, you don't just look at these, where they have stooges and they go on the streets and a man pushes a woman pushes a man, same sort of level of force, and the reactions, you're measuring the reactions of the public, they're very different. That might even be, and these differences might not be problems, they might just be gender differences. I mean, you know, but the important thing is to at least be aware those are our attitudes. So if we're saying we expect men to be more at risk than women because of the nature of certain things they have to do, that might actually be okay. We might be okay to say more primary school teachers are going to be women because they have more motivation and aptitude for certain kinds of nurturing roles. I don't know, but the important thing is we're not having the debate and doing the research. It's just a bunch of prejudice. And it certainly should be psychologists that are leading the way on this. So yeah, we're raising the question that there's more of an archetype than a stereotype with gender. These things are actual differences, which even though you have a whole spectrum, there are average differences. So differences in science are always about averages. They're not about all men are different from all women. But equally, it's not just true to say all men and women are the same. We're looking for average differences, and that's what science is about. That some women may be way better at being a soldier than some men, or some men might be fantastic teachers of very young children. But on average, you're going to get differences in population. These are the things we should be studying. When it comes to gender, even our social policy is mainly focused on women's issues, so we're not really looking at the male stuff. I mean, in psychology, there is no curriculum. When it comes to gender teaching, there is no male stuff on the curriculum. I mean, that surely says it all. So, so what we're coming to is this elephant in the room of sort of male gender. It's kind of there in all our lives, but we're not really studying it. Hence the little cartoon, which we always use these days. So we're going to come on to the present study, so maybe John, you want to say something about that?
Okay, so this is a study then. So we've already had the 3 studies where we spoke to therapists about their opinions and of experiences with gender differences in the needs of their clients. And so we thought we ought to also just go and ask the general public what they expect and what they prefer in therapy, and we also ask people about their coping strategies, and we asked them too about if they did need psychological help, how would they go about finding it, so about help seeking. So we did an online survey, and we used various social media, Twitter and various websites, and the dependent variables we used were how much they liked various aspects of therapy, where a low number meant that they didn't like that type of therapy, and a high number meant that they do like it a lot. And we had several predictors, mainly demographics, sex, age, ethnicity, whether they're from a westernized country or not, level of education, occupational status, marital status, income, whether they're relied on by other people, because that might have an influence on how likely they were to seek help, that's in the literature, and also whether they'd had therapy previously. We also asked them whether they had a history of mental health problems, but we didn't include that in the analysis because it was collinear with whether they had previous therapy or not. So we ended up with 150 men, 232 women in their 30s. There were some demographic differences, which probably aren't that important in one sense, but we controlled for any of these differences using multiple regression. So the first thing here then is the number of sex differences. So we had 62 different questions. We didn't use standardized questionnaires for this. We just kind of asked people lots of different individual questions. I mean, if there was a standardised questionnaire for people's preferences for therapy, we would have used it, but we couldn't find anything that came close to the range of questions that we were asking. So we found that there were significantly more sex differences in the outcomes than we would expect by chance, and that included when we made an adjustment to the probability threshold for the number of different types of questions that we asked. So we had 4 different sets of questions. So we divided the p-value of 0.05 by 4 and ended up with a kind of a more stringent kind of bar for significance to be crossed. But we still found that there were significantly more sex differences than you would expect by chance, even with this more strict criteria. So the 10 variables that remained significant after the adjustments to the probability threshold were... Do you mind if I use
Oh, sure, yeah.
Thanks. So we had, in terms of therapy, men preferred support groups significantly more than women did. Okay, so this, I don't know whether any of you have worked with groups or not. Martin, I know that you've worked with groups. I mean, what would your interpretation of that finding be? I'm putting you on the spot a bit.
Well, just to say a bit about running men's therapy groups. Certainly when I've run men's therapy groups in the NHS, I mean, I remember saying when they were in, they found the support groups better if they were for men, you know, as did the women. I think, you know, there are women's groups which are much more helpful for women, particularly if they have issues with men, you know, and abuse issues and things like that. But also the men when I did therapy groups reported that when they were in mixed groups, they tended to sort of clam up. They were sort of ashamed that, and they kind of let the women speak, and the women were better at speaking, so they kind of, I know a place like Tavistock Clinic doesn't even consider gender, we were trying to introduce gender-only groups there. So basically support groups, I would think men are more appeal to men if they're for men only, but also just the idea of support rather than therapy, it's a bit more male-friendly, because men will talk about their feelings. You know, it's not that they don't, it's just that the way of reaching a man, you have to, you know, you create a climate in where you create a friendly, supportive environment, and then the more emotional stuff comes in tangentially. Whereas if you run a support group, a therapy group, the emotions are kind of, a therapy group is saying, right, let's get down to business, feelings or whatever, as if you think that's your model of helping someone, which is a hypothesis which for me doesn't work anyway, that people want to be connected with, they don't necessarily need to discuss particular feelings. But for men, they feel, so I would say they prefer support group because it's less intensively confronting them with this emotional agenda, which doesn't fit with their gendered way of dealing with their own life. And so therefore, it's going to be, you're going to find a gender difference there, which we have to some extent found.
And in a similar way, the women, before adjustment to the p-value, they significantly preferred psychodynamic psychotherapy than men did, which kind of fits in with what you're saying about men preferring kind of...
Yeah, absolutely. Psychodynamic therapy is even more predicated on the idea that one must free associate, one must speak in a way that is not kind of, it's almost got a snob value about if you're talking superficial stuff, you're not doing therapy. Whereas I think a lot of what men say could be snobbishly regarded as superficial. We even found this in the Samaritans, haven't we? That, you know, if a man phones the Samaritans and starts talking about football, people think, oh God, you know, get him onto his feelings, this guy is just so shallow. Actually, by talking about football, this guy wants a connection with you. You go into that space and then the connection grows and becomes deeper. So it's a language, it's not men that aren't talking, it's people that aren't listening.
Absolutely. Okay, in terms of coping strategies that people used, we found that men used medication, over-the-counter medication, significantly less than women did. And this isn't surprising. It's just a kind of a fact other people have recognised. Although I thought it was interesting that that men going for substance abuse twice as much as women do, but that doesn't apply to over-the-counter medication. And
Just psychology of that is presumably that going over the counter is just sort of saying seeking help, whereas if you're taking a drug, you're very illicit drug, you're doing it yourself in private, in secret, or in a way where you feel you're in control of it. But actually it's the same thing. Any kind of medication is an emotional regulator, so you're basically, but a man's more likely to try and do his emotional regulation on the quiet or without overtly seeking help. Even when you do these studies, you find more women than men, don't they? They respond to them. We're seeing these patterns all the time. More women than men respond even to the survey. So you've got a sample size difference. So there's gender differences even in that.
Absolutely true again. So comfort eating, women did that significantly more than men did as a coping strategy for stress. Sex or porn, men went in for significantly more than women did as a way of coping with stress. And I think this is really interesting. We kind of, men going in for sex or porn probably isn't that kind of, not probably going to win anybody a Nobel Prize, but the fact that it's done as a way of dealing with stress, I think, is really quite an interesting thing. It does, I think it's made me think a bit differently about, say, men's use of prostitutes or things like that, or using pornography. I mean, if it's a
Accusers doing something.
Ooh, I don't want that. No, I don't want that to happen. No, I don't see the cancel. Where's
Closer. We don't, yeah.
Okay, got 15 minutes anyway.
That's probably all we need.
Hide. Does this mean that we should all hide? If I press the button, you have to be logged off. Don't do that. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes before this closes.
Let's just rattle through the slides and then we can just discuss things.
Yeah. Okay, so arts and crafts, women went into that significantly more than men did. Video games, men went in for this as a coping strategy for stress more than women did. And again, it's one of those things, like you see guys sitting for ages on playing video games, and it can be annoying, and you think, what are you doing with your life, and like, why are you ignoring me, this kind of thing. You know, maybe that's what they're doing to deal with stress. So in terms of help seeking, women sought help for psychological problems when they found that it had an impact on their daily life, significantly more than men did. Men tended not to seek help because of the idea of fixing problems for themselves, and men reported this significantly more than women did about men. And men don't admit to problems was something that men reported significantly more than women. And men also said significantly more than women that there were no male-friendly options for them in terms of therapy, which is why they didn't seek help, which is interesting. Okay, so we'll just, and there's one other thing, preference for the sex of the therapist. Most men and women didn't have any preference for the sex of their therapist. Of those who expressed the preference for the sex of the therapist, men were more likely to prefer a male therapist than women were. So actually men, I think about 23% of men preferred a female therapist and 17% preferred a male therapist. But almost none of the women wanted to have a male therapist. It was something that if men had a preference for the sex of the therapist, it was a decent chance that it could be a male therapist they wanted.
And that pattern of preference reflects the proportions of therapists in our society. You know, if you look at psychologists, therapists, they're mainly women. I think it's about 80% psychologists now, sort of women, 20 men, or something like that, therapy professionals.
Clinical psychologists, yeah.
These attitudes are mirroring that same pattern. That we're all kind of happy with a female therapist. We're kind of, and perhaps there is no preference to some extent, but where we have preferences, we want a female therapist, but if you're going to want a male therapist, then you're much more likely to be male. So, but basically female therapy, so there's more of a congruence between females and therapy, the therapy role, in all our attitudes, which is a very important finding.
It is, and it definitely has clinical implications. If men aren't turning up to therapy and they're committing suicide or doing all sorts of other things, and that could be because there's no male therapist for them.
It's one factor, so it's clearly a significant enough factor for us to be saying, what are we doing to get more male interested in therapeutic or helping work? But perhaps men are less interested in doing helping work because it's traditionally couched in terms of therapy and counselling models. If you were doing more stuff that wasn't traditional psychological talking approaches, but stuff where you get alongside people and start to work with them in ways which are more male-friendly, not only would you get more male clients, you probably get more male practitioners. So these are big questions, and we should all be stimulating that debate.
Okay, so quickly through some of the discussion points. We've already talked about men liking support groups more, and there is evidence, previous evidence there to support that. The sex and pornography thing, I mean, it could well be a distraction coping strategy that men tend to go in for more than women do.
And also it's just going into a place which is more pleasant. I mean, all people are looking for escapes from painful emotional places. If you're struggling with your life and you feel depressed or bad or suicidal or hate yourself or whatever, you're looking for an escape into a place which is more comfortable, less painful. So that's drugs, drink, everything. But there's a gender difference in what places you go to. That's the point we're making.
And internet games, again, probably a distraction strategy into something more pleasant. And the barriers to help seeking for men seem to exist on two levels. The personal barriers to help seeking, such as feeling like you want to fix problems for yourself, and also on a systemic level, perceiving the lack of male-friendly type of therapies as being a problem.
It's all a vicious cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just men that are the issue, it's the whole of society's attitudes to gender. So reinforce the idea that men shouldn't be seeking help. But then we throw all these charities are saying, come on, open up, guys. So it's a kind of double whammy, double message all the time.
So we focused a lot on the gender differences, which we think are probably quite important. But the word gender similarities too. So for both men and women, CBT was their most like therapy.
So the propaganda's been working.
It could well be that the propaganda's been working. It could be that CBT is a bit of a combination that keeps everybody happy.
It's somewhere between male and female stuff. Psychodynamic will be more female friendly. Sort of something more behavioural might be more, male. But CBT is a bit of both, so it's somewhere in the middle.
And the coping strategy used most by men and women was talking with friends. Although if we didn't examine that any more closely, but
there must be very different ways of talking.
yeah,
But it still can achieve the same end of helping you feel less bad than you did when you started talking.
yeah.
There's some impact of talking that relieves some subjective distress. So, for men, they're different styles of talking.
Yeah, I think that's probably a really important point too. It comes across through some of the interviews that we did with therapists too, that it's not that men don't want to talk about their feelings. It's just the situation that you create in which they can do that. It's if you say that the point of this therapy, like you're feeling bad, and what you're going to do is come and spill your guts to me and tell me how you feel about this and that in your childhood, and, that's going to put most people, men off. So our challenge then is to find some way of creating a circumstance that allows men to talk about their feelings without them feeling like that they're.
What Michael and I and others have been working on in Samaritans is going from feelings opposed to narratives. So, we would say to a man, and I think this works better for women as well, but you just say, what's your story? If you're feeling bad and you want to go and get help from anyone at any level, and someone says, what's your story? It kind of opens you up to talk about whatever you wanted to put yourself across. But if they say, what are your feelings? It's like you've got to inspect your feelings and what do you say anyway? I'm 80% anxious and 20% depressed. What are you going to do about it? Oh, there's an evidence-based approach. I'm not going to now do it with you. I mean, that would be the most depersonalising thing you could do with someone. But if you say, what's your story? Someone will tell you their story and the feelings come with it. Oh, I was abused as a kid. Bang. Oh, tearful. And the feelings are there. You don't say, what are your feelings? The feelings come with the context, the story. So it's so Mickey Mouse. I can't believe that psychologists and counselling theory is so unpsychological. That it expects feelings to be somehow talked about as if they were literal things you put on the table, and basically emerge from dialogue around narratives. And all the best CBT therapists, or the best any therapist, are just trying to elicit a relationship and talk and get to know someone and get their story. And that's why all therapists have the same outcome effects. If you look at all the outcome research, there's no difference between any therapy. The only thing that explains the outcome is the relationship. And that relationship isn't crude, it's very complex. It's someone trying to connect with you in a very detailed way. So, there are gender differences in how you connect with people. Or, how you would make that connection, that's all I guess we're saying.
So we talked a bit about the sex of the therapist being important. I mean, it has been highlighted. I think it's interesting, in the States, I think there was 80% in 1973 of the doctoral graduates in psychology were male, and that was, the last time they measured it a few years ago, was down to about 25%. So there's something that's changed. But certainly today in the UK, as you can see, there's 90% of psychologists in the NHS are male, 15% of new clinical psychology trainees are male. I mean, it's just, it's not something that men are going in for.
It's also because psychology has changed in that time, hasn't it? It started out, clinical psychology started out sort of a laboratory kind of thing. The white coats and the sort of rats and the measuring the behaviour of animals, and then it kind of applied to humans as if, maybe it'll help humans or something. Crazy sort of pseudo sort of science around behaviourism without going into the inner world of someone connecting with them. But as psychology has evolved, it's got more and more therapy. Even now, BPA, the British Psychological Society, is pushing clinical psychologists to become a CBT profession. It's almost like therapy is what psychologists do. It's not seen as that broader. And I think there are gender differences in your motivation as to what sort of thing you want to do. So the more therapeutic, the more almost sort of emotionally exploratory it is, the more it appeals to women. And that's not a bad thing, it's just that you're going to get that. Men have a different image of what psychology, what they want perhaps, and they do make different career choices, don't they? There's so many massive gender differences in career choices that people make when they're open to do any career. And we've been pushing to have more female engineers for many years now, and there's still a massive minority, just as there is with the minority of men in psychology. So there are gender differences in what we like to do. What's wrong with that? It doesn't have to be equal. The only inequality would be if we force people to do something they don't want to do. But equally, we should be aware of difference and honour it, even celebrate it. We celebrate every other difference. Why don't we celebrate gender difference?
So these were just a few kind of ways forward, so a few solutions to these problems. I mean, it's a bit, I think, to me, Martin, it's a bit difficult to imagine a kind of male-friendly therapy without thinking of things that are maybe quite a bit different sometimes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So these are some of the things.
Shall I say a bit about these very quickly? I mean, Samaritans, Michael's gone out, but him and I we developed a whole training program for the Central London Samaritans over a year where we trained the volunteers just to listen to men differently. We didn't train them to do specific things, we just ran a whole series of workshops on men and so we tried to raise awareness about men. We had Shakespearean actors coming in and doing Shakespeare in the male, women playing the male roles. We had musical workshops, we looked at lyrics of songs. After that year, we found that we could measure objectively the average length of phone calls with men and women. The average length of a call with men had gone up. So we were staying on the phone longer. So we'd actually changed the length of calls of men compared to women, which stayed the same after this intervention. But the gap between male and women are short calls. You know, there were many less men having these very short calls where they hung up quickly because people were just saying, oh, he wants to talk about football, go away, sort of thing. So basically that worked. Calm, you've probably heard of as a charity, the whole thing is based on reaching men through rap music, cultural, you know, trying to reach young men through the stuff they're interested in, like rap music, getting role models and stuff. It does work. Guys do ring in and they do start to feel connected. They just need a sense of a brotherhood or of being, you know, part, that they're not, it destigmatizes it. Men shed because they're designed not as therapy environments specifically, they're just designed as where you can get together with other guys and do stuff. And then the emotional connection, all the things we need for our mental health, don't have to come through talking to a therapist, they can come through all sorts of things.
So just going to quickly scoot along,
Yeah.
just to kind of plug what we're...
Yeah, because we've only got a minute left on the computer.
That's right. So just to say that we're part of the Mental Psychology Network. Hopefully we're going to be part of the British Psychological Society quite soon as the Mental Psychology section. There will be a vote on that quite soon. We're quite active in research. We're putting together a handbook. We've got a contract with a major publisher that should be out quite soon. We've got a conference every June, which is always very well received.